Hi, I'm Delegate Michael D. Smigiel Sr. from the 36th District. 36th District is comprised of Cecil, Queen Anne's, Kent, and Caroline counties. This session, I was proud to have placed several liberty votes before the legislature. The first was HJ2, was a joint House resolution dealing with the 10th Amendment and whether or not Maryland would be willing to tell the federal government that we're a sovereign state and we will not be bound by unconstitutional edicts given from the federal government or requests that we have unfunded mandates placed upon the state of Maryland. Unfortunately, the majority party would not allow this bill to come out of the rules, and it was never allowed to go to the floor for a vote. In addition, we also had a constitutional amendment for allowing the citizens of Maryland to challenge any tax hikes. In Maryland currently, as a citizen, you cannot go to the polls and have a referendum to say that you wish to oppose a tax increase that has been placed upon you by the Maryland Legislature. HB 31 would have allowed you as a citizen to go and challenge any tax hikes that are placed against you by the legislature. This also was kept from having a vote and was denied an opportunity to have a full hearing in the House and a debate. HB 16 was a bill I had placed in the legislature to make the textbooks for students exempt from taxation. HB 16 was an attempt to keep students in Maryland and to reduce the cost that they would incur in the purchase of textbooks. Currently, students are going out of state to buy their textbooks. They're buying textbooks online, or they're buying them through the sale at some of the warehouses, and the state loses not only the taxes that would have been generated from those out-of-state or online purchases, but we also lose the ancillary sales taxes, which are generated from when somebody buys a computer or buys other book bags and things that you would buy when you buy your books. And so to make the textbooks tax exempt, since we're increasing the tuition for students, would be a way of making Maryland schools more affordable, and I think would actually generate more revenue for Maryland by making the textbooks tax-free. That, again, also did not get out of committee and come to the floor for a vote or a debate. And again, that's the majority party would not allow that out of the committees. On the Second Amendment front, we had several successes. HB 820 was aimed at requiring gun owners to become registered in the state of Maryland. We were able to successfully defeat this bill in the Judiciary Committee, and HB 52, which is a bill I put in, would have allowed reciprocity in Maryland for those who have carry permits in the neighboring states of Virginia, Pennsylvania, Delaware, West Virginia, and we had added Florida, since many people who have out-of-state carry permits also purchase the Florida out-of-state carry permit, since Florida has reciprocity with many other states. This bill, while it did not pass, was the first pro-Second Amendment bill that we were able to get out of the drawer in Judiciary and get it to a vote, and it did fail 11 to 10. So we feel very encouraged that for the first time we're able to make some progress in getting the Second Amendment bills out for a vote. Also, we had an eminent domain bill, which was HB 63. Now, this bill would have said, according to the constitutional amendment that we would have had passed, the state of Maryland cannot take a person's personal property for the public good. Currently, you can take personal property for public use. You want to put up a library, you want to put up a road, you want to put up a school. It's a public use. What Maryland has sought to do is also allow the use of eminent domain to take your personal property for the public good. And what that says is, if currently you have a small store and it's generating $10,000 a year in taxes, and they decide that some other store could come in and make $100,000 a year in taxes, that the state of Maryland can use its power of eminent domain to take your personal property from you, give it to the larger store, and allow them then to build on your property. This is clearly not what our forefathers intended when they gave eminent domain as a constitutional right for the government to come in and be able to take your property. It was only for public use, not public good, and this bill would prohibit Maryland from being able to do that. Again, this is a bill that the majority party would not allow us to get out to the floor for a debate and a vote, and we'll put this back in again and continue to work on these constitutional amendments which work towards the liberty of those who live here in Maryland. Some of the bills that we were very successful on this year had to do with what came out of two very unfortunate incidents with regards to children. In Cecil County, we had a young girl, Alexis, who the man who had molested her was sentenced, and while awaiting sentencing was allowed out on bond. He continued to stalk her in violation of a no contact order until the young girl was so upset that she sliced her wrist. She was 11 years old. When we contacted the state's attorney and asked him to have this man pulled back in off of his bond, since he had already been convicted, already had the trial, but was just out on bond, the state's attorney said they had to find the judge who actually issued the order. So we put this bill in to say that you don't have to find that exact judge, and the way the bill comes out is that if you violate a contact order and you're in for a sexual crime against a child, you can immediately be brought back in and sentenced to 90 days is the mandatory sentencing for violating a no contact order. Two other bills that we were able to be very successful with this last session were HB 289, which is perhaps the strongest sexual predator bill that was passed yesterday. HB 289 is to remove diminution credits from those who would assault our children sexually. It says if you are convicted of an assault on a child, a sexual assault, when you go to jail, you're going to do the time you're sentenced to. You're not going to be sentenced to 25 years and be out in 15 years or 27 years. You get no good time. So you're actually going to be having a truth in sentencing in Maryland, which is something that many of the constituents who've contacted my office say that they're interested in having truth in sentencing. So HB 289 is a very strong bill which is going to help to make sure that those who are convicted of sexual assault against our children actually do serve their time. And HB 254 was Jessica's Law Enhancement, and Jessica's Law Enhancement Part 2 says that you will serve a mandatory 15 years to life for the sexual assault of a child, and Jessica's Law Part 2 was passed, and we're very happy that that was. So we've had what we think was a successful year, and we'll continue to put in legislation that fights for the children and your liberties here in Maryland. If you have any questions or you have any comments or just want to keep up to date on what's happening here in Maryland, you can always go to my blog at delegatemike.com and keep up to date on the things that are happening in your legislative district. Thank you.